Start with the attacks today in Pakistan and Afghanistan. More than 100 people killed in Pakistan in a market today, mostly women and children. At least 5 UN workers killed by Taliban, including 1 American. And then this front-page New York Times story headlined, "Brother of Afghan leader said to be paid by CIA." Richard Engels, chief foreign correspondent for NBC News. He joins us from Kabul, Afghanistan. Does it surprise you today that the New York Times led with the story that the brother of the president of Afghanistan is working for us, getting paid by the CIA?
I had not heard that until I read it in the New York Times. There are many, many reports about the brother of President Karzai and his allegations or alleged links to the drug trade and links potentially as a go-between to the Taliban. And he has been, for a long time, a lightning rod of attention in this country. So I wasn't surprised to see this story about him, but I hadn't heard anything about links to the CIA before this.
Well, that's odd because I heard about it before. In fact, I heard about it 24 hours ago from a good source who said it's well known. So we'll see how this develops as a story. Let me ask you, is this splash of bad news over in that region likely to be read by White House officials as a reason to increase the number of troops by 40,000, as recommended by General McChrystal, or as reason to think that hard before going ahead that far?
I think it'll be both. And if you argue, as General McChrystal does, that the Taliban have the momentum right now and that they need to be stopped, well, then you certainly have evidence of that today with the first time the Taliban going really into the heart of the city, carrying out this attack on a hotel that was used by UN workers. What they did is they first killed the guards outside, climbed over a wall, and then were going room to room looking for UN staff. Some of the people had to jump out of windows on the upper floors. So if you believe, like General McChrystal, that this is a serious problem and that the Taliban's momentum need to be rolled back, then you have evidence of that. If, however, you believe that this is a lost cause and that without a real political situation and a new strategy, then you could also say, well, look what just happened today.
You know, there's a lot of talk back here in America that the president will take a middle course, and that scares a lot of people because smart people, many of them believe, the worst possible policy is somewhere middling down the middle, that if you're going to try to win that war, you better put in as many troops as the generals asked for, because it's the only way to bring security to the main population centers and help rebuild the country. If you want to get out, that's also makes sense because you're saying to Karzai, you take over. What do you hear over there in terms of the middle course? Is it seen as a rational position or a political position?
It's seen here by people that I spoke to as a political position. I've heard very similar to what you're hearing by senior military commanders. They say, if you want to do this, if you want to resource it, then send in the troops and try the new strategy. If you think that the war is not beneficial to America's national security and that exiting is the better approach, well, then a larger, different policy needs to be thought up for Afghanistan and Pakistan. But I've heard from no one here saying that splitting the baby is a good idea.
Let me ask you again about the political situation of the brother of the president, Karzai. His brother, what was said today by John Kerry, the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, was kind of tough. He said, now that he hears that the CIA is paying the president's brother, he doesn't believe the CIA's assessment that the brother is not in the drug business.
The role of the brother here and the role of government in general is so sensitive right now. I've been told by people very close to Karzai that Karzai has asked the Americans specifically to lay off his brother and to stop these allegations. So Karzai, from people who I know who are quite close to him, has become fairly politically paranoid over the last several months, sees conspiracies, sees articles like this in the New York Times deliberately planted by the U.S. State Department to try and cut away his legitimacy. So the issue of the brother is one that Karzai takes very sensitively, very personally, and is sensitive right now because there is no political leadership. There are supposed to be elections here on the 7th of November. I can tell you there are no visible signs that those elections are going to take place on the ground. We don't see any kind of activity. In fact, the Taliban today said it carried out that attack on the UN compound to try and prevent the elections. But we don't see momentum, posters going up, any kind of political rallies. It doesn't seem that the elections are as imminent as they are scheduled to be.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard Engel in Kabul, Afghanistan.